Alright, welcome back everybody to another one of my favorite movie reviews, and this is a very special one because this is not just one of my favorite movies, this is my favorite movie of all time, Back to the Future. There's a lot of great things about this movie that I know I'm either going to miss or just scratch the surface on, so feel free to jump in that comment section and talk about all the things that I forgot to talk about in this video because I know there's going to be a bunch. The concept behind Back to the Future has always captivated me and fascinated me since I was a young kid, because Back to the Future was born out of one of the writers looking at his dad in a high school yearbook and had the question, if he went to high school with his father, would they be friends? And it's one of those questions that when you hear it, you think to yourself, yeah, how hasn't a movie been made about that yet? And that question of if you went to high school with your parents, would you all be friends, is one of the things that makes Back to the Future so awesome and so unique. Because not only do they tackle that question, but they have a lot of fun playing around with that question. With Marty McFly going back to 1955, having his mother fall in love with him, break up his parents before they could even get together, and having to get his father and his mother together so that he can exist in the future. And with that concept, Back to the Future ticks all the boxes that I look for and love about movies. It's got great comedy, it's got a great sense of drama, some great suspense, some nice romance, not between Marty and his mom, that's weird. It's got a villain that you love to hate, and all around it just has fantastic characters. And we got to talk about the characters of Back to the Future. Not just the characters, but the cast of Back to the Future, because this is one of those lightning in a bottle casts. I say that phrase a lot. But I truly believe that the cast of Back to the Future is just one of those casts that perfect time in right place, right movie, it all came together to make the perfect product. And you don't have to look very far to find the proof in the pudding with that when you look at Michaeljfox. Michaeljfox is the engine that keeps Back to the Future running. And I'm not the only person that would say that. The writers themselves, the people working on the film, the director, everyone actually had a huge campaign to get Michaeljfox in this movie. If you haven't heard the story, a lot of people have, but if you haven't, it's fascinating. It basically goes like this. Michaeljfox was on a TV show called Family Ties back in the 80s when Back to the Future was being made. The creators behind Back to the Future knew that they wanted Michaeljfox, but the person running the TV show would not let Michaeljfox out of his contract to be in the movie. So they actually shot weeks with another actor, and he was not giving the directors the performance that they were looking for. They knew that they needed Michaeljfox. So after weeks of already shooting the movie, they fire Eric Stoltz and go back to Family Ties and beg the boss for Michaeljfox. And the showrunner only let Michaeljfox do the movie if he did Family Ties during the day and Back to the Future at night. And that's exactly what Michaeljfox did. He would work on Family Ties during the day, way into the night, where he would get an hour or two of sleep on his way to the set of Back to the Future, shoot that all night long, and go back to Family Ties during the day, and shoot Back to the Future on his days off from Family Ties. That's also why a lot of the scenes of Back to the Future take place during nighttime, because Michaeljfox is shooting them at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. But as sleep deprived as I'm sure Michaeljfox was, his performance in Back to the Future is so great. And while he doesn't necessarily carry the movie, a lot of this movie is on his back. And his knees are showing no signs of buckling during this film. He gives such a sporadic, energetic, just all-out entertaining performance as Marty McFly. One of the things that the filmmakers were looking for their Marty McFly that they knew Michaeljfox could pull off well was the reactions from the character, because he goes back into this time that he's not familiar with, and they needed a good reactionary actor to react to what he was seeing. And that's exactly what Michaeljfox does throughout this whole movie. You totally buy the fact that he is completely frazzled at what he is seeing. He is bewildered, he is in shock, and he is also a little terrified, but it never comes across as a horrifying situation. Not like a horror movie. Michaeljfox is still able to find the comedy within his reaction. But Michaeljfox is not alone in this movie, because you can't mention Marty without mentioning Doc, played by Christopherlloyd. Another case of perfect casting, Christopherlloyd as the eccentric Doc Brown. He is just so much fun to watch, get excited about science, get excited about his experiment with the time machine. The friendship of Marty McFly and Doc Brown is essential to this movie. It's basically the backbone of Back to the Future. And if those two do not have good chemistry, this movie doesn't really work at all. And the fact that Michaeljfox and Christopherlloyd have as great of chemistry as they do in this movie is just absolutely phenomenal. But the supporting characters of Back to the Future, I also love. Leah Thompson as Marty's mom. She is so hilariously horny for Marty McFly in this movie. It's so hysterical to watch Leah Thompson as young Marty's mom going after Marty. It's so awkward, but it's so funny. Crispin Glover is in a league of his own as Marty's dad, George McFly. His performance is one that you just can't get anywhere else. Let's just say that. But he's entertaining, I'll say that. As much of a pain as he was on set, you hear all the behind-the-scenes stories of how him and the director really butt heads, and that's why he's not in any of the Back to the Future sequels. What Crispin Glover contributes to this movie is timeless entertainment for me, and I really enjoy his performance as George McFly. And then, of course, you've got Biff Tannen, the bully and foil to Marty McFly in 1955. Man, I love this guy. Why don't you make like a tree and get out of here? Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Think, McFly, think! You just love to hate Biff Tannen, and Thomas Wilson plays him so well, giving him a real funny sense of stupidity, but also intimidation. And I've always just loved the screenplay and the script of Back to the Future, because everything in the first half an hour that's introduced in this movie when we are with Marty McFly in 1985, seeing his life, seeing his family, seeing what his normal routine is like, all of that comes back into play in 1955. And it's one of those screenplays, it's one of those scripts where you have to listen, you have to really look at what people are doing, what they are saying, how they are living, and when you get to the segments where Marty is back in time in 1955, you see where the habits and traits of stuff happening in 1985 began. And it's also one of the things that makes Back to the Future so rewatchable for me, is the fact that you catch so many different little things. The more you watch this movie, the more time that you spend picking apart what's going on in 1985 and seeing how that translates in 1955. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if they can make a movie like Back to the Future nowadays. It's just such a special film to me. It's one of those films that's just not like any other film out there. It's not like any other time travel movie out there. I could go on and talk about the exciting finale as Doc Brown is trying to make sure that he gets the electricity to Marty McFly right before he's gonna drive and hit the pole so he can go back to 1985. As the awesome score by Alan Silvestri is just banging through your eardrums. It sounds better than that. I could talk about the introduction scene to the time machine. That is one of the most perfect and best written time machine introductions that I've ever seen. It is so captivating, it's fun, it keeps you invested, and it's so simple that anyone can understand how the time travel works in this movie. If you haven't seen Back to the Future yet, you are just being so mean to yourself. Let yourself watch this movie. I highly recommend it, clearly, as it is my favorite movie of all time. I've probably said that 500 times now. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about Back to the Future? Comment down below. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions. All film is subjective. If you don't like Back to the Future, you can tell me. I can take it. Guys, thank you again for joining me for another video and talking about this movie with me. I really appreciate it. And if you're new here and you like talking movies, TV, and all things entertainment, why don't you go on and click that subscribe button, click that like button, click that notification bell, all that YouTube stuff. And I hope to talk to you guys again real soon.